Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead.
Man, you score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We're gonna
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Ewan, and today only Andy misses out due to being a key worker. Well, he says key worker, he's really just driving a bus for old folk. With the Aberdeen game postponed midweek, that leaves us with just Saturday's trip to Celtic to look back on. A point gained or 2 points dropped. We discuss all the major talking points from the game. We then look ahead to Wednesday night's game. This time it's Celtic again. This time they travel to West Lothian. It'll be a very different Celtic side this time round. And finally this week, we look ahead to a huge game for the club. It's the Cup semi-final weekend as we head to Hampden to face St Mirren.
So, first up this week, we're going to look back at the weekend's game against champion Celtic. Livy went into the game, of course, on the back of 8 straight wins. Celtic, we all know about their build-up with the 13 players missing due to self-isolation, COVID restrictions, going to Dubai, and the likes of Neil Lennon and John Kennedy missing as well. The game ended goalless in Glasgow, but there was no doubt, in our opinion certainly, that Livy were the better team and should have won the game. Lots of positives to take for that, boys, but you know, maybe a sense of frustration, which is a weird feeling that we've not come away with 3 points from Celtic Park.
Yeah, you won't find many teams to go to Celtic Park, keep a clean sheet and take a point away and will come away from it feeling hard done by. But yeah, we're in that situation where we're coming away from these kind of games and we feel like we could have taken more. You mentioned about like Celtic's preparation wasn't quite the best, but you look at the team that they fielded and it's still pretty solid. I mean, you had only really Connor Hazard and Beaton who were kind of not really in natural positions. Tom Rogic as well up front. But you look at the rest of them, Shane Duffy, Republic of Ireland international, Frimpong, apparently one of the best prospects in Scottish football. Ismail Assoro and David Turnbull have been labelled as by Celtic fans as their saviours for this season. Cal McGregor, vice captain of Celtic, was stalwart for Scotland as well. Tom Rogic played at World Cups. So you look at the team and they should be doing a lot better, but that's massive credit to us that we didn't give any of those kind of players a sniff. And yeah, we deserve massive credit for it. The start to the game, we did tremendously well, pinned them in. I think it was John Guthrie went very close from a volley. After that, Celtic kind of came back into it. I think Callum McGregor went quite close before Stryjek made a fantastic save against Frimpong at his near post. But we just kept plugging away, and unfortunately, we couldn't find the back of the net to make that difference. But we certainly did have chances. David Martindale summed it up perfectly in his post-match interview that he feels like Effie's being tapped up by the opposition. On another day, 2 of them go in. On another day, one of them falls to John Guthrie perhaps and then goes into the back of the net. And then Josh Mullen hitting the bar as well. Like, when that kind of thing happens, perhaps it's not just going to be your day. And I had absolute nightmares when that ball from Ralston went across the front of our goal, but thankfully Okoflex missed it and we managed to come away with a 0-0 draw, which is great, to be honest. Not many teams will be able to say that they've kept clean sheets against both Celtic and Rangers this season, so got to take that as a positive for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a very good performance. I think it's the most we've imposed ourselves at Celtic Park from memory that I can ever remember, going back to even the game our first season back up in the first season in the top flight when we got beat 3-2. I think that's the most positive display I've seen from us in terms of an attacking sense. And we created ample opportunities. As you said, Guthrie came close, good attempt. Mullen had a free kick. It went just wide. Devlin had a great cross, quite similar to that one you talked about with Ralston. Wokoflex, someone just gambles on it. It's got a tap in at the back post first half. But, you know, as you say, Celtic weren't putting out a bang average team full of kids. You know, other than the likes of Ralston, Hazard and Johnston, the rest of those players have featured regularly for the team throughout the season. You know, they've got a guy like Laxalt who's on loan from one of the biggest clubs in Europe, in AC Milan. You know, as you say, Rogic has played at World Cups. Mikey Johnston's even been called up for Scotland and stuff like that as well. So it's not a poor team that they put out. You know, I think the game's second half, it started to get quite stretched and quite end to end. But again, I think we created the chances in the game. You know, we really should have put it away. The Effie Ambrose headers, how 50 pence head, how he's missed that. That was an absolute killer to see that one go wide, but obviously Hazard's pulled off a good save when Josh has hit the bar. But Celtic still had chances as well. There was Pittman made a really good block second half from Mikey Johnston. I think Josh Mullen made a really good block from Laxalt as well. So overall, it was a good performance defensively as well. We didn't give Celtic I wouldn't say a lot of really clear-cut openings. Obviously, there was kind of another tweak in shape, went back to what looked like a kind of 4-2-3-1. Steve Lawson came in. I thought Lawson was maybe a wee bit wasteful on the ball at times, but I think the work he done off the ball was very effective. He was very quick to get in and cover for Brown and double up on that side where Frimpong was, which I thought was really, really effective. But I think on another day, we could easily win that game 2-0. But it shows you the standard that's been set recently since Davies came in, that we are coming away from Celtic Park and we're disappointed that we've not picked up 3 points. But at the end of the day, if you're offered any points at the Old Firm away from home at the start of the season, you take it. And I think that's the way we need to look at it. We're now 9 games unbeaten, which includes a game away at Celtic Park. So I think if we can take the positives from that performance, and maybe we can catch Celtic off guard Wednesday night if they're a bit rusty, obviously being off for a week or so. So tinge of frustration, but I think there was so many positives to take from the game as well.
Well, I agree with what the guys have said so far, and then you look at that game yesterday, and I was very impressed with the way that we adapted the high press. We never gave that. We were happy for the likes of Duffy to be on the ball. He was wasteful, and I seen a stat at half time that Duffy had only actually completed 37% of his passes in the first half, which is mad when you think about it. We were happy just to let him have the ball, and Robinson bullied him even in the air. Robinson was competing with him. Josh was competing with him. We were winning probably silly fouls, is what you'd say, from them. And I thought yesterday we were very wasteful from set pieces. I thought that the balls going into the box were just get it in top of Hazard. We've seen in the last couple of games that he's a bit of a bomb scare from set pieces. You look at the Hibs game, he's came in flapped on Monday night, right at probably one of the last kicks of the ball. That's going to be fresh in his head. Beaton had a word with Laxalt during the game for pulling Bartley before the balls came into the box. Put it in that position. Put it right on top of the keeper, and let's see how he deals with it. You put Guthrie, Bartley, Ambrose, all of them there, and that's where we've been good this season, is with set pieces. Balls coming into the box. We've got the height there that can probably go and compete. That's what I thought we were wasteful with yesterday. Robbo's got to play in Josh. Josh has got a great angle going in to get the shot away and goal in the second half. But there is a hint of disappointment coming away from Parkhead yesterday, and it's probably one of our best chances that we'll get to go to Parkhead and win. The team that we played has still got, I think, 6 full internationalists and 2 under-21 internationalists. When you look at it there, but come on, that's the Celtic Colts team we played yesterday, going by some of the reports, and it's you look at it that way, and we've went and competed. We've went and won every second ball, and I'll be honest, I thought Darren O'Dea was actually spot on with the stuff he was saying yesterday in the Celtic commentary, saying that Livingston, we're not just a team that hump it long. We're a team that will go and play off the second balls and will compete. And I thought yesterday that's what we've done. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm disappointed with a point, because you take a point away from Parkhead. Start of the season, you look at the fixtures and you go, standard limitations when you go to Ibrox or Parkhead, you go and try and keep the score respectful. And luckily we came away with a point yesterday. But if on a day that we're more clinical, I thought Robinson was brilliant yesterday, the way that he led the line. He's harassed the two centre-halves, he's ran them into the ground. Mullins kind of adapted a free role when we've got the ball. I think when we got the ball yesterday, it kind of turned into like a 4-4-2 diamond, going by the looks of it, and Mullins got that free role off Robbo that he's able to run about, and that's where you look at the first half, he's picked up the ball and he started to drive. Sybil ran himself into the ground. He played a bit of a different role yesterday. He wasn't sitting. He was adapting the press. Him and Bartley are trying to mark McGregor and Turnbull out the game, and you stop these guys from playing. It's a hard shift, and then we've only got to go and play them again Wednesday night when they've got these 13 players back. But I'm very, very impressed with the performance yesterday. I think that when you look at the way that we've adapted and we've played, we've done well, and we tried to keep the game as compact as we could in the first half. We tried to make the park narrow. How many times have we went to Parkhead in the last couple of seasons and they've made the park as wide as they possibly can, and we've been told to shreds down the sides? And that's where they've been. And that's what I thought we'd done very, very well yesterday. And we just kind of let them do what they wanted to do. The fullbacks didn't really seem. Frimpong would be a world-class player if he could actually have a final ball. But he's got nothing. You look at the doubt that he got in behind, and they never exposed Brown. That was my big worry when I seen the lineup. I thought Brown was going to potentially be a weak point, and he was brilliant. I thought he stuck to his task very well and done exactly what he had to do yesterday. And I think Davey was spot on with his stuff post-match. I think that we've went there and we've executed the game plan. The game plan was massive yesterday. You go to these places and the players are buying into it. And you could tell that yesterday. Everyone went onto that park yesterday knowing exactly what they had to do. And they've bought into what they've had to do. You've not seen someone stop and no chase back. I think Alan Forrest probably had sore ears for the other side of Parkhead, with the amount of times that you could hear Davey even on the commentary yesterday shouting at him. Through the commentary, shouting at him. And that's exactly what it should be. We're a very, very well drilled team, and we've set a standard that we need to play to, and I think we did that yesterday.
I mean, how do you follow that? Not a lot to. I mean, not that much to add. You know, the three boys there have covered it very, very well. I do agree with Waugh, the fact that I think a lot of our game plan was to stifle that middle of the park where Celtic usually control and dominate the game. You know, the likes of Sorrow, McGregor and Turnbull, who probably, if you look at it over the course of the season, probably the only three that have really had pass marks at all this season for Celtic's been probably their three key players. We really, really stopped them from playing their game. Again, as Waugh touched on, had no width at all really yesterday, Celtic. The only two times really that they got into dangerous wide areas was when they created those chances through Frimpong and Ralston when he played it across. I think, you know, maybe if an Edward or a Griffiths is there, maybe they tap that in instead of Vocal Flex. But you know, Max Dryak, as again Angus has touched on, didn't have a lot to do. You know, he's come away from Celtic Park with a clean sheet, and he's had to make one save, which again you probably, in fairness, expect him to make. You know, at front post, but he still had to do really well to keep it out. But you know, we've had more free kicks, more corners. We had a lot of the ball. You know, you're usually coming away from Celtic Park with about 25% of the ball. I think we had 38% of the ball. Again, doesn't look great stats wise, but you know, we for large spells of that game, certainly in the first half, you know, more towards the end of the game, we had a lot of the ball. And again, at 0-0 going into the last 10, if there was going to be one team that would score, it was us. You know, I think we were in the ascendancy, and you know, I thought that, yeah, if there was going to be one team that scored, it would have been us. I don't think Celtic really threatened at all. In fairness, and no, it's as you have all touched on. It's just I came away yesterday. It's just a really weird feeling that in a way, like, obviously in the grand scheme of things, it's a good point, but like you come away with it fairly gutted because, again, I don't think you're going to get the chance to get 3 points at Celtic Park. You know, we won't have not an easier opportunity, we won't have a better opportunity. But no, I thought we were excellent yesterday. Created a lot of good chances and probably could have and should have come away with the win. But, you know, we keep the unbeaten run going, and as you have touched on as well, and we'll come on to in a wee bit, Celtic at home on Wednesday night. So hopefully it's a similar performance and we can stifle them again.
Just a couple of things that I thought maybe slightly controversial moments in the game. Agree what you guys have said. Obviously, I think we were a wee bit wasteful with our dead balls at times, and I think one chance Davey really mentioned was Devlin's right late on if someone just gambles at the back post type thing. So maybe a wee bit wasteful in front of goal, but a couple of controversial incidents. Ralston's yellow card for the challenge on Sibbald. Having seen that one back, tell you what, he's a lucky boy that he gets any of the ball there, because that's a reckless tackle, isn't it?
It's a red card every day of the week, even though he's got the ball. He's not in control of the challenge. He's made the scissor motion and he's came through the side of him. It's a red card every day of the week. Beaton shat it. And I'll say that right now. You can say that right now. Beaton shat it. He's absolutely shat the bed with that challenge.
There was an incident in the Fulham game last night against Chelsea that the boy Robinson got sent off. And you look at the two incidents, and to be honest, there's not an awful lot of difference between them. If anything, Ralston's could look a wee bit worse because of the way that he comes in. But yeah, I think he's very lucky to have stayed on the pitch there. Maybe he's had the benefit of doubt that it's not going through on goal or whatever. But yeah, I think one of the other contentious decisions you might be coming on to talk about is the one with Scott Pittman, if I'm correct, where he's running through on goal, and I think it's between Laxalt and either one of the two centre halves. They're trying to obviously shield the ball through, but Laxalt just completely bundles into him right on the edge of the box, and it's like, well, what's Beaton looking at there? Like, boys running through on goal to put pressure on, and the guy's just completely wiped him out. Like, how is that not a foul? But you're never going to get those against Celtic, are you?
Well, that was my thought. I was watching at Sports Scene last night, and I thought it at the time, and was saying he's made absolutely zero attempt to play the ball. When Pittman's running through, he just came across and completely body checked him. And anywhere else on the park, that'd probably be a foul. You know, I don't understand why that got overlooked the way it did. I don't know what you guys thought, the two Callums.
Yeah, my opinion, I've seen them given as well as the red card. You know, I think it's a very poor tackle, and I've seen the penalty back of it. Well, penalty, free kick, whatever you want to call it. Laxalt had no attempt to play the ball, just stood in front of him as they're trying. I think Hazard was a bit, dodgy coming off his line yesterday. You saw on a few occasions, I think Duffy berating him a few times and trying to shield the ball back to him, and he just wouldn't move for his line. But no, they looked really, really shaky at the back, and that was a moment where I thought we could have got in. There was another one with Robinson, tried to get in several times through the channels and in behind, but I think Laxalt's lucky there, in my opinion. But you're not gonna get these things at Celtic Park. Let's be honest, you're not.
Got to agree with Bruni. I think it would. Don't think that would be ever something that we would get at Parkhead. A body check with someone in front of them to give us. I don't even know if he was completely in the box yet. I think it was on the edge. So you're probably looking at a free kick, and the way that we were with free kicks yesterday, it's maybe a good thing we didn't get it.
Well, all in all, it was a good point on the road again for Livy. We'll now go and touch on the game coming up at the Tony Macaroni Arena Wednesday night.
So all that leads us on nicely to looking ahead to our next game. It's a home game on Wednesday night against Celtic again, but we're sure it'll be a much different Celtic side at this time as they welcome back the COVID-13. We've got a terrific record against Celtic, whatever team they put out. But with this just a few days before the biggest game for the club in a long, long time, how do you see us approaching this one?
I think Davey will approach it in the manner that he approaches every game. He'll go out to try and get a result. I don't see us changing our style. I don't see us changing the team very much. It's not often I agree with Semple, but when you're on the sort of run that we're on, players are always chomping at the bit to play as many games as possible, regardless of the kind of space between them. So I think we might tweak our shape a little bit. That remains to be seen, but I can't see us making wholesale changes. I know it's a massive game coming up against St Mirren in the League Cup, but I don't see us making wholesale changes because of that. We'll still have a bit of recovery time between that game as well. So, but it will be interesting to see what the Celtic team will be like. Obviously, they should be back in training Monday, I believe, but we might catch them off guard. You never know. They could be a bit rusty, having not been able to train that much prior to the game. And they're not exactly full of confidence just now either, regardless. So it's another opportunity, regardless of what Celtic team comes out. As you've mentioned, our recent record against Celtic since coming back into the top flight has been very good. I'd struggle to see other teams that have taken as many points off Celtic as we have over the last couple of seasons, out with the obvious sort of Rangers. But it's another big chance, and I think we showed there'll be players that played in that game at Celtic Park that will probably start the game on Wednesday night, you'd think. For example, the likes of Frimpong, Laxalt, Turnbull, Sorrow, you'd expect these guys to start the game, McGregor as well. So I don't think there'll be wholesale changes. I think we might have a bigger threat is in terms of in the forward areas, might be the likes of Edward, Griffiths coming in, which I think will pose a bit more of a threat, a natural kind of threat in behind us. And I think that's where the big challenge is going to come. I think they'll have a bit more cutting edge, maybe in the final third. But we've proven already we've got the tools at our disposal to hurt Celtic, and I think we'll be positive again. I think we'll try and take the game to Celtic again, because again, we've touched on it previously last week that teams that have got results against Celtic this season have been positive and they've taken the game to them and they've caused them problems and opened them up.
To be honest, I think that Wednesday night's going to be a completely different game for us. I think that they're going to come out with, they're going to have the full coaching staff back, the 13 players that have been isolating. They come back into the game probably as a different sort of animal. They've got probably a lot to prove. There's going to be a lot of media attention on them. So these players are probably going to be completely fired up from that, because a lot of their integrity and everything's been questioned over the last week or so in Scottish football. And I think that these guys are going to come out and try and let their football do the talking. A lot of these guys have probably been put through a lot of turmoil in the last week by their own actions, their own stupidity by going away to Dubai. And they've got to deal with that. I think that the game on Wednesday night, if we're going to have any joy, is targeting the defence. We've seen yesterday that they weren't confident. We've seen what joy we can get by attacking them, and that defence probably isn't going to change too much. The only one that you can probably see coming in is Ayer. And I'll be honest, every time that he's played us, I've never been that impressed with him. I think that we've got a lot of joy out of him before, and I think the pressure, and he got bullied by Scott Tiffany. Look at the size of him and look at the physique of him, and he's been bullied by Scott Tiffany at Parkhead earlier in the season. And I think the form that Robbo's in and the way that he's been playing, I think that we can get some joy by pinning the ball in behind them and letting them turn and face their own goal. These guys obviously don't trust their keeper. And you could see that yesterday with the way that Beaton and Duffy were berating Hazard just before the half-time, when the balls ran through and Robbo's trying to put the pressure on and he's not came out when the ball's probably there to go and get in the edge of his box. And that shows they might change the keeper. They could bring in Barkas, but never really done anything to impress me when we played them in the 3-2 game at Parkhead either earlier in the season. And I think that it's all about how we go about this game on Wednesday night. I think that the pressure that we put on, the high press, we don't let them settle in. And I think the first 10-15 minutes are going to be massive. I think if we can get in their faces and let them know they're going to be in a game, we can have the same intensity and work rate as we had yesterday, then it's going to be a completely different avenue for us to go down. We can look at trying to hit them on the counter-attack, and hopefully we can get a positive result out of the game and take that into Sunday. Keep the confidence rolling over. Even if you pick up a point on Wednesday night, it's still a massive point for us in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, as you were saying, I don't really think we have anything to fear. Waugh sort of touched on it in the sense that I think they'll have three of the back four that started at the weekend. So I mean, it's only Ayer that's coming in, and as Waugh says, he's not really set the world alight this season at all. And again, if they don't play Hazard, it's one of Bain or Barkas. And again, I don't think they're top goalies at the minute. Obviously, the likes of Christie, Edward, Griffiths, if they come back, that gives you a bit of a worry. But they've not won it, the Tony Macaroni, since we were last promoted. So, I mean, nothing to fear in my opinion. Not really a lot to add in terms of what you have said. I think you have covered it really well. But no, as I say, just nothing to fear, and we can take the game. Obviously, the semi-final looming on Sunday, that maybe takes the shine off this game a wee bit, and you can't maybe. I still think we'll go relatively full strength, but maybe you can't proper run yourself into the ground, and you can't proper go for it because we'll be 4 or 5 days recovery until probably one of the biggest games in the club's history for a long, long time. So, and a chance for a final, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, it is a strange one. Do you rest a couple guys ahead of the big game, or with some several midweek games coming up as well? It'll be interesting to see team selections and things like that. But nothing to fear at all. It's not the Celtic of last season, who again we still took points off. I think we took 5 points. They only dropped 10 points last season. We took 5 off them, and that was the Celtic that everyone knows, that the winning machine. So yeah, we've been excellent against them. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the game, and hopefully we can continue sort of the form we've shown against both sides of the Old Firm in recent years.
Aye, for on Wednesday, I think a very key point is going to be set pieces. Perhaps one of the reasons that we didn't quite get as much joy is the fact that long throw-ins, Celtic Park's a much wider, bigger pitch, got that extra distance to try and throw. I know we did get into decent areas, but on a kind of more smaller, condensed pitch, I think those problems can be exploited even more against Celtic. Like the free kicks and that as well. Basically, in our own stadium now, any chance in our own half, we're going to be looking to punish them from there. Hopefully, we don't start fanning about with some of them like we did on Saturday. Some of the ones were giving me absolute heart attacks, but I'm sure Davey will have told them adequately that shouldn't be going on. But yeah, in terms of us setting up, in terms of rotation of players, I'm not entirely sure what kind of changes you can make, especially kind of in the middle of the park. Obviously, if Jason Holt's out, that kind of nullifies you to kind of have to start with Bartley, Sibbald, and that. Perhaps Alan Forrest might start from the beginning this time. Possibly so, just to rotate, keep things freshened up. Maybe Robinson will come off a wee bit earlier if we set up with him up front again. But I think we should take great pride in the fact that we know what we can do against them, because that midfield is essentially going to be the exact same. And you're talking about players like Turnbull and McGregor. They didn't have a sniff against us on Saturday. And if we apply ourselves like we did in the last game, then on Wednesday, there's no reason that we can't do it again. Yes, they're going to have better options up front to supply balls and that too, but we never even really seen Turnbull getting into any areas where he could probably threaten us. So I think that's got to be a key thing to target, is just to stop them playing essentially. And as Warren that said earlier, let the players like Duffy and that have the ball and let them hoof the ball at the park every time. That will do us perfectly fine. It'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with the Cup semi-final at the weekend, but I can't see us making an abundance of changes. Possibly Serrano comes in from the start on the left-hand side to give us a wee bit of energy, maybe. Nothing to fear. They're in low spirits, we're in high spirits. Let's go and see what we can do against them on our lovely plastic pitch that they cannot wait to play on.
It is a thing of beauty, that plastic pitch, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with you. Celtic have been quite suspect from dead balls this season, so I think that And it was an area where we did get it right at times yesterday. It was causing them all sorts of problems again. So it's got to be an area we're looking to exploit Wednesday night. Talking of changes, I could maybe see Robinson getting rotated, just because Davy said himself he does try to protect Robbo because he's had a few injuries and things like that in the past. So that's one I can maybe see happening. I agree with you. I could maybe see Alan Forrest coming in from the start just to freshen things up on that side. Like so maybe Serrano, but it's always a difficult one when the team's playing as well as they are. We talked about how well Serrano had been playing at left back. Kieran Brown came in for the Hibs game. He's not put a foot wrong since coming in. You know, things like that. So Jack Fitzwater's back fit, but again, Effie's not really put a foot wrong since he's come back into the team. So it's difficult to make these changes, but it shows you, as we mentioned after the Ross County game, players are coming off the bench and making an impact as well. So it's maybe no bad thing. We've got players chomping at the bit to get in, and they'll be eager to impress to play what's a massive game for the club coming up against St Mirren.
I think that the Robinson, what you said about Scott Robinson there, I think that could be an option that we look at changing. Sunday is going to be an absolutely massive game. Hampden's a bigger park than what we're probably used to playing on. The park probably isn't in the best condition with the weather, so it's going to be heavy. So it's going to be a long shift for the guys on Sunday as well. And I think that they might see a couple of changes. Hopefully, I'm glad that Effie's came back in and played the way he has, because I think everyone knows my thoughts on the Ballon d'Or winner, Effie Ambrose, absolute hero. And hopefully does a big marauding run on Wednesday night and blast it in the top corner. But I think that you might see a couple of changes. I think it's the shift that the guys put in yesterday. It's hard to keep going that way. Hopefully Riley can even maybe make the bench Wednesday night, and then we take it from there. Hopefully give him some minutes, and then there's another option for us.
Well, it'll sure to be another interesting game, and hopefully we can pick up another result against the current champions.
Finally this week, it's time to look ahead to what is a massive weekend for the club. That trip to Hampden for the semi-final of the Betfred Cup. We face St Mirren for a place in the final. We've got to be buzzing for this one, don't we, boys?
Yeah, it's a massive occasion for the club. It's not often a club of our size gets the opportunity to play at Hampden in a semi-final, with the chance of obviously getting to a final, which we know the other semi-finalists have St Johnstone. There's a genuine chance that the club could go on and create history. But the thing you always need to remember is St Mirren will look at this the exact same way. St Mirren have been massively improved on very early doors in the season. Where they had a bad run of form. They look like they're kind of pulling themselves away from that pack at the bottom as well. And I have to say, I've been quite impressed with them since Jim Goodwin's came in. I think they've been quietly effective. They're very difficult to break down. They don't give an awful lot of chances away, but I do think we'll be a different animal to the team that they played the first two games of the season. We're banging form right now. They've kind of petered away a little bit in recent weeks. They've still been picking up points here and there, but it's a massive opportunity. I think they might have a couple of key players out as well. I can't remember the boy's name. Doyle Hayes. Looks like he's going to be out. McPherson got sent off at the weekend as well. So, there's a couple of key players in the middle of the park for them that are going to be out. But I think it'll be interesting to see, a cup semi-final at Hampden with no fans. Does it take a bit of pressure off the players? Typically you'd have a crowd for that, which adds to the pressure of that occasion. But going to an empty Hampden, it might take the pressure off both sets of players. And normally you see semi-finals, they can be quite cagey. But I think both sets of players will see this as a massive opportunity to make history and might just go for it and go for the tie. It is a one-off game at the end of the day, so I think it could be a really entertaining game, to be honest, because of that element surrounding it, that both the old firm are out. You've got Aberdeen aren't in it. The kind of big guns that you would expect to get at this stage of the competition are not there. So yeah, it's a massive opportunity. Obviously, Bruni, you'll be too young to really remember when we won the League Cup and that semi-final at Easter Road, but I fondly remember walking through the streets of Leith singing "We're All Going to Hampden," when we won that game. Lily scored the penalty. But I've also been on the end of the semi-final heartache a couple of years later when we got beat by Dunfermline in what was already a dismal season. So, nobody remembers the losing semi-finalists, so you want to at least make the final, which would be another massive achievement for the club.
I think if we, again, look at it away from the actual semi-final in terms of St Mirren, I think we're due them, we're due them a beating, I think, because obviously they've beaten us twice this season in both the games. I think both finished 1-0. So I think the players will sort of use that again to their motivation. As you touched on, we've been in fine form. They were also in a bit of excellent form as well. But again, as you say, that they've petered out a wee bit. They just lost at the weekend there to St Johnstone, who we've beaten home and away. So again, it's in the league, anyone can beat anyone, and it's just who's going to turn up on the day. St Mirren have sort of had our number this season, which is a bit frustrating. But I mean, again, not much has changed in terms of personnel from the two games that we've played them in, but a lot has changed in terms of confidence, and we're starting to play a lot better football now, and we're in my opinion, we're a totally different beast to those earlier games in the season. I think it's just a shame that there won't be anybody, there won't be sort of, I don't know, however many thousand would have been there in terms of Livy numbers, St Mirren numbers. It's just a shame that clubs that don't get, I mean, St Mirren will maybe argue that they've got a wee bit more history and things than Livingston, but it's just a shame that two sort of relatively small clubs in terms of Scottish football, with the likes of Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen's usually getting to the semi-finals. It's just a shame that there's going to be no fans in and nobody can get to experience that semi-final. But it's going to be a good game, hopefully. It's going to be very tight, I think. But I think we can come out on top. I really do. Again, I touched on it with the Celtic game. I don't think we have really that much to fear. Obviously, they're going to have confidence with having beaten us twice, but I'm just really, really looking forward to the game. And again, Ewan touched on it a lot. They'll be thinking the exact same. But it's such a good chance to get to a final, beating St Mirren. So fingers crossed we can keep the form going, because if we play like we have in the last 8 or 9 games or so, I think we'll be too much for them. I hope I'm right. They'll obviously be up for it, and they're very, very difficult to break down. It's probably the most difficult semi-final we could have got. Obviously, we tore Hibs apart and beat them 3-0, beating St Johnstone home and away, as I said. So St Mirren are very, very good defensively, and Jim Goodwin's got a really well-oiled machine there. So hopefully they have an off day and we can continue the fine form.
I am particularly looking forward to the semi-final because I seem to be having some sort of weird Mandela effect with that last semi-final in 2006. I think it was this podcast I was listening to, and one of the guys mentioned that obviously the last semi-final that we made was in 2006, and for the life of me, I have absolutely no recollection of that. I can remember everything in 2004 perfectly fine. I remember going on the bus to Easter Road, getting balloons and ticker taping that, to hide, going through the stewards and everything. But for the life of me, I can't recall the actual last time that we were in a semi-final. So, yeah, it'll be good to have some sort of memory of one again. But going back to the actual game, yeah, it does look like a very interesting prospect. St Mirren have already beat us twice this season. I would argue that we're a completely different side than those two games that we played. I think those two games were very lethargic. We gave them far too much time, especially Gary Holt's last game. I think that was kind of a damp state of affairs that possibly now does look as if it was the right decision for him to end up leaving the club, because we needed that kick up the arse. But yeah, as Ewan said earlier, Jim Goodwin's done a tremendous job there. They won't really be operating on that great a budget, but you look at the squad that they've got, the fact that they've been able to attract likes of Jack Annick, Richard Tate, Joe Shaughnessy, even Marcus Fraser, tempting him to come down from Ross County. They've gone about their business, and signing Eamon Brophy very recently as well. That's a bit of business. They've done very well, kind of similar to us in the terms of recruitment, where they've managed to pick off decent players from other sides, and they're now sort of in the race for the top six. I think they've petered off a wee bit lately. They've not got a win in the last 4 games, which I think they'll be disappointed by. There's a St Mirren fan, Andrew Christie, who I talked to on Twitter quite a bit, and he says that in recent weeks they've tried to change their formation a wee bit to try and accommodate 2 strikers up front. Possibly they may have wanted to change back to having like one up top, but as you said, with the suspensions that they've got to a couple of key midfielders, they may be forced to continue with that kind of style of play. And if that's not doing them the world of good right now, then we should have every full confidence that we can go and take something, especially with the run of form that we're on, and we could definitely punish them. It's important for us, though, to treat the game against St Mirren like we're treating the games against Celtic. We need to be at it from the very start, not give them any time, as we've already seen what can happen if we do let them come into the game. We've been punished twice. So, yeah, as Callum Brown said, we've got to go to Hampden and hope to give them a wee bit of revenge for the past 2 games that we've played them in. But, yeah, it's such a huge game, and for not many players, it might be their only chance of playing at a national stadium in a cup semi-final. I mean, you look at likes like Nicky Devlin and John Guthrie and that, both coming up to like closer towards like 30-year-old. Have they played in these kind of games before? You're talking about Marvin Bartley. Yeah, I think he won the Scottish Cup with Hibs, but I don't think he played that day. So he'll be looking for his moment in the kind of limelight. Like Scott Robinson, Scott Pittman and that, the kind of success stories and that. It's fantastic for them to have this opportunity to represent our club and hopefully get us to a final in the process. But yeah, very much looking forward to this, and hopefully it's a scenes of jubilation rather than heartbreak.
It shows you how casuals have changed over the years, that Angus was needing to smuggle in ticker tape and balloons rather than smoke bombs and stuff like that. It just shows you how casuals have changed.
Mate, I was only like 7-year-old.
No pyro, no party, even back then, Angus. Looking at the game for Sunday, I think it will be cagey. I think that it's going to be very, very cagey. I think that it'll be absolutely key. Whoever wins the midfield battle will come out on top. I think that we need to go in, we need to impose ourselves, we need to dominate. We need to try and get the ball down and play a little bit. We need to try and, when we then get the ball, is try and make the park probably as wide as we can and look at trying to get in behind them in the flanks. I think that we can get in behind Tate and Fraser. They've got a couple of folk, I think, missing from midfield. Brophy should be cup tied as well. Played 2 games earlier on the season for Kelly.
Brophy's actually available for the game. Some ruling with the SPFL, so Brophy's available.
Fantastic. That's a shambles. It's a conspiracy already. But to be honest, I think that we've got enough across our team that we should be able to go there and to pick something up on Sunday. I think that it's going to be very cagey. Both teams know what's on the line for them. They know this is probably the biggest game for a lot of these players' careers, like Angus was talking about there. And we're probably lucky that I think Robinson was part of the Hearts team that beat Hibs 5-1 in the final. I'm sure he was part of that and been around that. Bartley obviously was key in the 2016 for Hibs. Effie Ambrose has been in and around multiple league winning sides with Celtic. And that experience is going to be absolutely key for us on Sunday. And you look at it, you've got guys like Gavin Riley that was part of the St Mirren team that also won the championship. So these guys have been there and they've won trophies, they've won cup competitions, and I think that experience is going to be absolutely vital. How we manage the game, and it's all about managing. It's a big park, it's going to be probably very heavy underneath. There's probably not a lot of football going to have been played in it, so there's going to be probably a lot of moisture kept underneath and everything like that. And I think going in about the game is try and get in behind them. Let Mullen run. Even if you go with Forrest, I think this could be the game for Forrest to come back in and attack them down the left hand side. Try and pinpoint him on Fraser. Let him just go 1-on-1 and let him try and beat him to the byline. And I think that's where we can get some success. And it'll be interesting to see how we go about it, how we get on. And I think that it's just really, really disappointing that unfortunately we'll not be there on Sunday, probably with the exception of Bruni, to see the game and to be there and soak up the atmosphere and just the day out before it. And I think that's what makes you realise that little bit as well. But hopefully the team give us something and then to cheer about on Sunday afternoon after the game.
Just briefly on the match preparations, obviously we've spoken about it just there. We're obviously playing on Wednesday night. Do you think that will have any impact? Of course, St Mirren not playing midweek. They've played on Saturday and they'll get, was it 7 or 8 days rest? Do you think that will have an impact? Will be a wee bit more leggy?
Well, 2 games against Celtic. It's not ideal preparation for one of the biggest games in your recent history, is it? Typically, when you play Celtic, you're going to have to do a lot of running off the ball and a lot of kind of hard work and graft off the ball. So it'll be interesting, but we know how fit our squad is. It's an aspect that we've had since kind of going back to when Hoppy came in. The players have always been really fit, but I can see maybe a couple of changes, as I say, Wednesday night, just to keep things fresh, and certain players in particular, the likes of Robinson, who, when you play up front on your own, there's a lot of work goes into that, for example. So it will, I'm sure it will give them a sort of advantage, but I think these sort of games, adrenaline can get you through them. It's a massive occasion, so hopefully it shouldn't play too much of a part.
Yeah, I think he's talked as well about like how in these kind of runs of form, players just are so eager to get back out there, and that might help carry them on through to the game at the weekend as well. I think as well something that we've seen is that whenever a player has dropped out, somebody has came in and made like their name. So I don't think anybody will be wanting to drop out of the team in any way, just in case they don't get back in. We've seen it happen earlier in the season just there with the game against Hamilton. Marvin Bartley was suspended, which brought Jason Holt in. Jason Holt played so well that he became a mainstay of the team, which forced Alan Forrest to drop out of the side, who hadn't put a foot wrong essentially. The same with Matty Poplatnik. He'd been playing great up front on his own. Robinson comes on against St Johnstone, does terrific, and look at it now, he should have won Player of the Month. So I think there's that kind of fight within the team where it's like, I'm in this team, don't rest me. I think it was Roy Keane earlier in the season was talking about kind of like squad rotation, and he was like, yeah, you can rest all of them, but don't rest me. The team needs me, and I'm hoping that that's kind of what most of our players are thinking at the moment, and they won't want to sacrifice their positions at all. But yeah, that's all you can ask for from your squad, is that there's not going to be any leeway of if somebody is missing from the starting 11, somebody's going to come in and do just as good a job. And I think that kind of fire within our squad has really helped us in recent weeks.
So lads, what we'll do then is we'll get predictions for Sunday. So, Angus.
I can see us going there and having a good day, so I'm going to go 2-0 Livingston.
I'm going to go with 3-1 Livingston. We'll hit them late on the counter, make it 3-1.
Bruni, what you thinking?
I think we'll win, but I don't know what my head's telling me is that we'll win on penalties, and I really don't want us to, because I don't think I'll be able to take it. But I just see a penalty shootout. You know, Scotland have won the last couple on penalty shootouts. I just have that feeling that we'll do it on penalties.
I'm going to go with Callum Waugh. I think it will be quite an entertaining game. I think 3-1 Livy. I think it'll be quite similar to the Ross County game recently. We'll catch them on the counter and seal it late on. But here's hoping our predictions are right, and we can see Livy make a bit of history and get to the League Cup final. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livy. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
We are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, as Ewan just said there. Search Talk Livy to find us. You'll also find links to our weekly episodes on there too. You can also find all of our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including the likes of iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube as well, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel over there. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivypodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode that we've done over the last couple of years.
That's it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Hampden. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Hampden Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier Division.